one more time for Iliza. Let's hear it. Okay, last time you were here promoting Confirmed Kills, I think, closer to
I think
September, you were like, I'm in the works on something. It's been my dream, my lifelong dream to host the late night show. That's literally what you said.
Yes.
Your lifelong dream has not been to be a comedian. It's been to host a late night show.
It's also to be a cat, and that's very hard.
That's
very hard to do.
Be tough.
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you at some point.
Like vice versa, Kirk Cameron thing kind of happens too.
Oh, weird. No, so it's been to have a late night show, and this is something that I've worked toward forever. And I think at the time when I told you about it, it was in the works, but I didn't want to say anything because if it's not out in Variety as like an actual article, then it's not real.
Can I ask, before we even get to what the show is, let's tell this story because I'm fascinated by this.
Okay.
What does in the works mean? Where were you at that time, and what was that like?
I don't remember. In the works could be, if you're a real liar, in the works is I had this idea in my head this morning and I'm going to email about it later.
That's where I live.
That's that space. In the works could be anything from we've had the meeting with the network to the network is sending us back a contract to we've already staffed up for production. In the works is everything up until the day you tape it. And so because it's live to tape, like a Tonight Show, we don't have a clip for you. We have a couple sketches we've shot, but we didn't bring them. So this is going to be live to tape. It's going to be every Tuesday. It premieres May 2nd. And it's going to occupy a space that I feel is untapped. It's this space between, if we're looking at a Venn diagram, between politics and pop culture and sort of social commentary. I just, for the last decade, I've watched TV, and as a feminist and as someone who considers herself reasonably intelligent and well-spoken, I noticed that nobody was really going out of their way to speak to young women specifically in an intelligent way on, I guess, en masse. And so, you'd go to bed with your boyfriend, and you would watch some celebrity gossip show, and your boyfriend might watch The Daily Show, and while you could watch it too, there was no one talking to women like me. And I'm not, who I love, I'm not Rachel Maddow, and I'm not Samantha Bee. I don't have a passion for politics, but I do have a passion for how politics influences our society and for how we're feeling, in particularly as women. So I wanted to create a show that sort of addresses that and breaks it down. I'm just like you. I read my 20 free Washington Post articles a month, and I read my tweets, and I regurgitate the same facts that we hear about Syria, and I consider myself pretty liberal. But at a certain point, there are things, if you don't have a background in politics and you don't follow it, especially in the news cycle that we're in, you get a little lost. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if there was somebody saying, here's what a state senator does, because I actually don't know. Here's how an electoral college works. Here, if this bill gets passed, here's why you should care. We have a segment on the show called, before I say that, I think a lot of times because of the inundation of news and everything is so negative, we look at our phones and you're just like, I can't even. Because every day it's like a shitty Groundhog Christmas. Like you wake up every day, you're like, what? Oh my, and like before you even get out of bed, the world is melting. And it's so difficult to have the stamina to know about every protest. And some of us have jobs. I can't go down to the airport every time something bad happens. And so wouldn't it be great if there was somebody saying, I know that this seems far away, what's happening, but here's how it affects you. So we have a segment called, because people look at their phones like, ugh, I can't even. So this segment's called You Can Even and You Must, and here's why. And I just make it relatable, and without swaying you, without saying here's who you should vote for. I mean, it's obvious that I'm pretty liberal, but it's just a way to inform women, and it's fun, and each show has a different topic.
Now, can I ask, this was in the works in September, when last time you were here. Now, when it was in the works before, was this going to be centered around informing people, not just of politics, but of news and how it relates to them? Because I've noticed that since the election, and for very good reason, it's very hard to talk about anything else. Like, we're upstairs coming up with a new idea for a show at AOL. Right. It's going to be an entertainment show that and every time we start talking about it, different time. There's obviously no competitive.
Competitive always.
Yeah.
Everything.
But every time we sit down to pitch something, it's sort of like, what's on our minds? And it's like, the alt-right, what's on our minds?
Right.
Syria. There's no point where anybody is like, what's on our minds? Well, I watched Big Little Lies last night. I really want to get into that. And everyone's like, it's a fine show, but it's not as important as this other thing.
We've come to a place, from the conception of this show to the actualization of it, we've come to a place where you actually can't afford to ignore what's going on. I didn't want to be and this is not taking anything away from the brilliant people who already work in late night. I didn't want to be another liberal person shooting fish in a barrel. I didn't want to get up. We don't have a monologue because that's the most boring part of late night, honestly. And I didn't want to get up and just be like, and do another Donald Trump joke. The guy's a fucking asshole, and he's an idiot, and he's surrounded by morons, and our country's turning into a dumpster fire. And short of saying that, you don't need me getting up and making my pitch at a Donald Trump joke. Perhaps I'd rather explain why, if certain bills get passed or if certain things happen, and taking even a step away from politics. Like we have each show is a theme. So we actually, I don't know if this is like a spoiler, one of our episodes is called Your Vagina is Normal. And this is an episode dedicated to letting young women know, like, what you have is okay. Because if I see one more fucking meme about a roast beef sandwich and some guy being like, if the pussy be looking like this, it's like, number one, sir, you would be lucky to see my vagina. Number two, that's not what one looks like. And three, even if it does, like, that's fine. And it's sort of, I wanted young women to watch this show and feel like somebody was on their side. I want men to watch it because it's smart and funny and they want to understand women. I just want to sort of take our pulse as a community and break things down in my own perspective and my own brand of feminism.
I'm very sorry about all my roast beef memes.
Those were yours?
Those were.
It's just.
I'm the perpetrator of all of the roast beef vagina memes.
And like, we think it's funny, but there are girls, and like my passion isn't educating young women. It's terrible, but we're not impervious to it. And you still get women that are constantly fixing their hair and their makeup and their bodies, being told like what you are isn't okay. And then you've got these feminists that you're like, you're beautiful, don't do anything. And it's like, where do normal girls lie in between? And so I want to talk to women my age. I also want to talk to women that are younger than me. So I have like a little bit more life experience and say, you know what, like, you're okay. And don't let that get you down. I'm proof of that.
But where does the straight white guy fit into this,
You
Iliza?
don't. Literally, you can go do anything else. Go watch baseball.
Another thing for everybody else.
You fit in because it's, the reason comedy is relatable, and my comedy, I can only speak for myself, is relatable is because what I'm saying has happened to you. Whether it's something about a relationship or going to a bar or a personal thought or experience, I'm very good at saying what people are thinking. And there's a way to do it without alienating people. I'm here to talk to women and men and my generation. And I think that there is a type of feminism that hasn't been tapped into where you can explain the way that you're feeling as a woman and not repel men. I think anytime you're a group, whatever you are, Muslim, Jewish, black, white, if you're angry about it, nobody wants to hear your agenda. Nobody wants to be yelled at. So I think that, especially for my last special, Confirmed Kills, it was this digestible feminism where men watched it and they were like, I get that. I experienced that as a white person when I watched 13th. I was like, holy shit, like, what an eye-opener. And it was because somebody made a beautiful documentary that explained something to me that had never been explained in that way before. And if we could all do that from our own perspectives for our own things, the world would be a much lovelier place.
Just to stick up for myself for a second, I'd probably prefer to watch your show than baseball. I don't like baseball.
Who watches baseball? I went to a Dodger game and I left
Bored?
after the second inning. Because like I ate my hot dog, I took the picture. It's enough. It's enough.
And then did you try to watch the game?
Yeah. It's like a little. I was there for a very specific reason. It's fun. You go, it's in the sun, I freckle. I like sports. Why am I defending this? I don't care.
So so let's talk about the process for you staffing up a show and hiring writers and producers. What was that like?
So the first thing you have to do, this is making a show 101. You got to get yourself a showrunner who's your EP, and this is the person like in charge. And I have this wonderful, shout out to Kim, wonderful showrunner named Kim Gamble, and she worked on Colbert, and she worked on Bill Simmons' show. And she just knows what to do. And every day I walk in her office, she's like, here are the 12 things we're doing today. Here's what's going to happen tomorrow. She sets up the interviews for your line producer, your accountant, your segment producers. And then for the writers, I specifically chose to read all of my packets. As a writer, you write a packet. We say what we want to see. We'll say we'd like to see a segment idea, a desk bit, a monologue, and some jokes. And I chose to have all the names taken off. Because when I read it, I didn't want to judge you based on your last name or maybe your perceived fame on Twitter or something, or if you had other work. I wanted to just funny as funny. So we picked a diverse room of writers, and that's how we picked it. and I guess that's it. We've just been, it's tough because it's live to tape, so you can't make up jokes in advance. You don't know what's going to happen, but we've made up segments that we will fill in according to the week's news. We've done some sketches that tap into sort of the social climate. We have a sketch about women's perceived vulnerability. We have a kit you can buy on how to get woke. You can order it, and there's several levels. There's actually like 1 billion levels. It's impossible to be fully woke. So it's things like that.
As soon as you reach a level of woke above somebody else, you can sort of like quietly judge
You
the
can
woke
judge
levels,
for sure.
Yeah.
But like no one's 100% woke. So there's that. And for the parents watching at home, woke is a bastardized form of the word awake, past tense. So it's like what the kids are using. It means your eyes are open, and as a white person, you're ready to get mad at other white people.
I bought a onesie for my friend's new baby that says, "I may take naps, but I'm still woke." Which is like my favorite thing. You don't like that?
Get that like at an Urban Outfitters.
I got it on Etsy.
Etsy, it's cute. It's fun.
It was immediately after Hillary Clinton lost the election.
We'll say won. We'll do revisionist.
Yeah.
She won.
And so my friend had a newborn baby girl, and I was like, take all of these liberal things and
Put them on her. Put them on the
feeding
child.
it to her right now. Let's change the world.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying change the world, actually. I want this to be, and this is by no means alienating men. I've been doing comedy for 10 years. Men are still loving coming to my shows. Also because, like, I look good in a spray tan, so that's fun. I got a spray tan for this.
You have a spray tan right now?
Yeah. I'm, like, offensively pale. If you take a picture of me outside in the sun, I have no nose. Like, I could rob a bank in broad daylight, and they'd be like, she had hair. Like, no one knows. So I had to do this for other things. I just want there to be... I want men and women to feel included. This is a social show. It's not a political show. This is a place you can come get a little informed so that the next day, when someone brings up something important, you have some kernel of knowledge about it.
How do you define social versus political?
Well, social is more, there's more heart to it. It's more the way you're feeling. So we say, so we overturn Roe v. Wade. Horrible Handmaid's Tale existence. But so we do that, right? Socially, what does that mean? It means less of your rights. It means more of your rights are going to be compromised. There's more implication. It's really talking about something that's happening in Washington or something that's happening out there in the ether, and how does that affect you on a personal and local level? Something, we go to war, and you're like, whatever, none of my family is in the army, like, I don't care. I'm like, well, guess what's gonna go up? Your gas prices. Like, just letting people know how that trickles down and how that will affect you. And things kind of like, if you don't go to this protest, if you don't stand up for, let's say, refugees, then when it's time to get rid of you because of your color or your religion or your beliefs or your sex, there will be no one to stand up for you. That's not my quote that I've bastardized, but it's the idea of realizing that we actually all are in this together, and someone like me, who's very much like the rest of you, sort of explaining how that affects you.
Did you start with a monologue and then realize that you didn't want to do a monologue on the show? I mean, no, you can obviously do a monologue. You do stand-up all the time. You do hour-long specials.
We started writing the monologue, and the truth was, you only have 2 minutes, and I've never been a set-up punch kind of person, nor would I want to do that. Like, you see, Reince Priebus did this, what a dick, and then just like, whatever. I didn't think we needed it. I think we have enough of it. And it's never been my favorite part of late night. I want to come out, I'm going to come out, there's going to be energy. I'll say at the top, like, 2 or 3 things, let's get to it. This show is sort of a reimagining. We're not reinventing the wheel, but Freefrom has been very liberal about allowing, like, there's fluidity to the show, and we aren't beholden to making sure it's like monologue, guest, desk pick, you're out. Like, we can move those pieces around. It's quite modular, so I'm excited about that.
The monologue is, at this point, a fairly stale thing to do, unless you're doing something like Samantha Bee does, which is the whole show is a monologue, and
Sure.
It's all about that. But the monologue, even on the late night shows, Colbert's great, and Fallon's fine, but when they come out and do monologues, I'm immediately like, let's get to the other stuff.
Right.
Let's move on.
It's sort of an institution that's never been questioned, kind of like just being like a white dude. No.
It was like a huge deal when Seth Meyers was like, I'll do a monologue from the desk. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's revolutionary. It's like,
you know what?
He's just sat down.
I'm going to wheel out a desk when I need it, and then it goes away.
Oh my God.
Because the truth is, it's not about the desk, and it's not about the monologue. It's about the comedy. Stand-up comedy, I don't have any sets. I wear a sweatshirt on stage, And people come back because it's about the words. Like, if your comedy is good, it doesn't matter how simple it is. You can dress it up however you want. So our focus was first and foremost on, is this funny? Are we saying something? I ask my writers, we have a very small writer's room, but every day, and it's a challenge to myself, and I think my fans keep me very honest, is this authentic? Is this actually something I want to be saying? And is this the truth? What's the underlying message? Like, what am I really saying here? You know, it's all well and good to make a joke, but like, do you believe that joke at the end of the day? And are you saying something that others are afraid to say?
Are you finding that most of the Donald Trump jokes that we see, not just in late night, but across the pop culture platform, sort of don't go far enough, that it's not enough to just sort of make fun of this guy for being an idiot, that you're actually distracting us from what we should focus on, which are the underlying policies and how it affects people?
I think you could argue either way, and I'm certainly not here to break down politics perfectly and explain everything. I'm here to do it in a very basic way so that you have an idea of what's going on, which I will be informed by some very smart writers about that as well. I think it's important to lampoon him. Of course, the other side of that is, in doing so, we've made him a joke, and it's like, haha, that joke has his, hands on a bunch of nukes.
It's the same thing that we did to George W. Bush. We made him the buffoonish idiot.
And how much do you miss him now, by the way? So it's important to keep doing it. Also, I think we know in Hollywood that, like, it does bother him because this guy is such a self-absorbed asshole that he's, like, arguing with SNL. So I think it's important to do it. I think we're woke enough as a country to see now when things are distractions and not be distracted by some shiny piece of news, and we are keeping vigilant. We are watching what's going on. It's all we can do as entertainers is make fun of someone like that. You can vote on a local level. You can show up to protests. You can do, but you are a bit of a rat in a cage because you can't get website. You can't affect change. You don't have any political power other than
shut
your
down
voice.
Fox News, so I don't know what we could
Throw a rock, like a big one.
Brick in a window? Are you advocating a brick in Fox News?
I was just joking. It was a joke. So it's your job to make fun of it. It's your job to. It's a comic's job when he sees bullshit. She sees it, call it out. And we're all doing the best that we can by keeping our heads above water, because every morning's a fresh hell.
Will your dog be with you on set, or are you mad at Chelsea Handler because she stole that?
She stole my dog?
Well, she has a dog. She has a late night show when she keeps her dog on set with her.
It's funny you brought that up because now it's going to look like I'm saying something anti-her, which I'm not. I didn't want to. This is my first shot at late night, and I felt bringing the dog out took some legitimacy away from it. Like, it's the Iliza show. Here's my dog. By the way, your birth control should be free. Like, who's going to...
Well, it's like it's your first shot at it, whereas like her show right now with the dog is
different.
her second shot.
It's different. And so the dog will be on set in the back. We might use her or something, but it's... I intend to have the show exist in the pantheon of respected late night shows, and I don't think bringing Blanche for this season is a good idea. But she will be there in all of her glory. In the back, not in the front. Maybe in the front.
Let's get some questions from you guys, the audience. You, right there.
Hi.
Thanks
Hi.
for being here.
Thanks
so
for
I'm glad
having
you
me.
mentioned getting woke, and if you want to help
Thank you,
us,
white person.
If you want to help us get woke, I guess you have to be woke yourself. So how did you get woke, and how are you gonna stay woke? What's the process been like?
I feel like you just demeaned woke in a horrible.
Did.
Like it's like it's gone.
That clock is making me so anxious. I feel like I have 30 seconds to explain being woke. Look, my biggest issue, and I've been talking about this on stage, is that we live in a society where no one is allowed to say that they were ever ignorant. And I have a huge issue with that. All of a sudden, everyone's woke. All of a sudden, everyone understands everyone else's rights. Our society is moving at such a fast pace, and everything is evolving so quick. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say this. Like, no. For the most part, if you're white, you probably didn't know 5 years ago you couldn't touch a black girl's hair. You didn't know that. And now we know, and it's great that that's been explained. But everybody walks around with their heads up their asses like, I've known everything. I've known about transgender rights. And you didn't, because it wasn't at the forefront of our news. So I think it's important to say, and the idea is always to be better today than you were yesterday. So it's, maybe you read a book, I sound like such a white person, like I watched 13th, but maybe you watch a documentary, maybe it's a Holocaust thing, maybe it's talking to a Muslim person or understanding a transgender person. I'm not saying I understand it all perfectly, but the objective is to create an environment on the show. It's a safe space where no one's safe, meaning we're gonna ask questions in the pursuit of understanding versus vilifying.
Can I say I'm a little worried about the person who wasn't woke to the Holocaust 5 or 6 years
Oh,
ago?
like Sean Spicer? Cool, moving on. But it's a thing, so even if you are trans, black, Muslim, like you're still not a Jewish person. You're still not an immigrant. Like it's impossible to fully understand someone else's story. And the way that we come to an understanding is by simply listening and being able to ask the questions. I remember there was a discussion, something happened with the NRA a couple years ago, and I went on Twitter to ask a question, and I almost got my head taken off. People are so afraid that someone that they're uncomfortable with is going to be in power. People are so afraid of losing power, and people are so afraid of other people because we don't understand each other. And with just a little bit of compassion and the patience to explain something, I think we'd all get along a lot better. I'm not saying I'm going to broker peace in the Middle East, but I would like to say, hey, we've all said a racist thing on accident. I've made a fat joke. I'm sure growing up people said things like tranny. Now you know you can't. And so the idea is that you would never do it again. And if you did it and you hurt someone's feelings, that wasn't the intention. We need to allow for that versus this like buttoned up, like I can't say anything and I know that I've always been woke. It's like, all right, you made it. I'm sure no one's perfect. So the objective is to just move forward with some grace, right? Absolutely. That's my answer.
Next question.
Hey, Iliza, how's it going?
Hi, sorry, I don't have my contacts in, so I see you now. Okay.
Okay, good. So I was just wondering, since this is your debut in a talk show, like, has it been more challenging getting to do that as opposed to doing stand-up?
Has getting a late night show been more challenging than doing stand-up?
Doing the late night show versus stand-up?
Well, I haven't done the late night show yet. We're just in pre-production. So
Well, I mean, doing this, yeah.
I mean, it's just two different animals. Like, one is a 10-year career of doing it every single night, and it's just a different animal, you know. Stand-up, I can get up and I can say whatever I want, and it will go largely unchecked. And with, you still have a network. You still have to run certain things by them. Someone's got to say yes, whereas in stand-up, you kind of create your own yes. It's a solo sport, and this is a team effort. But it's been an interesting collaborative process, like learning, like, oh, other people have good ideas, too. So it's just two very different animals. Yeah.
I think I have time for one more question.
Hey, Iliza.
Hello.
I know you were saying that this is more like a social conversation. How much is it like sort of like just having a conversation with friends, which can be politically incorrect and insensitive at times, but, maybe still but true to like what people are thinking?
So again, I think it's a good question. I think it goes back to what is your truth and what is your objective? And I think if you really are setting out to hurt someone, then you have to retool that. I think a lot of times jokes do come from that place. My father yelled this at me recently. Like, there is a truth to some stereotypes. And as a comic, I refuse to live in this world where it's like, you can't say black, you can't say a Jew joke. And it's like, oh, but I can. And if it's done with love and it's done from a place of understanding versus look at this horrible person, I think the audience can feel that intention. So this isn't, and I feel like especially as a woman in her 30s, people love to apply this label to women. Like, she's unfiltered. She says it like it is. There's a way to do that. And by the way, I am not unfiltered. I am very specific with my words. I'm very deliberate. I think that there's a way to do it in an intelligent way without just spouting off stuff and spreading rumors. And so I think it's about choosing your battles. And I think there are things you can say that are biting, and people hear them and they're like, ugh, but she's not wrong. Those are the kind of things that you want to say versus like just a joke just to get a laugh.
How much do you fear when you do jokes about stereotypes or,
Which I don't, by the way.
No,
I don't really have any of them. Like, I'm not like a real racial commentary. I've got some jokes, but they're very like pro people of color versus like the opposite. So I don't really have a ton.
Jokes essentially when words are used to sort of showcase an idea, but maybe that joke gets misread by the wrong audience or an audience misunderstands. Because I think of someone like Louis a lot, and Louis, while all of his jokes have salient points at the end of them, even when they start a certain way and then they change, it seems like there is an audience of people over the course of the years who've evolved to sort of, or de-evolved in understanding his jokes a different way.
Well, first of all, comedy is contextual and like of the time it makes sense, and hopefully it stands the test of time. I feel there's always going to be people that don't get your comedy, and there's always going to be someone. It's almost unfair if you're signing up to watch. If you're at a comedy show, for example, you're signing up for comedy. You cannot sit in a comedy club and laugh at me making fun of myself and other people, but then when it comes to you, you're like, how dare you? No, how dare you get the fuck out of my audience? Like, that's not fair, and that's not equality. I have a joke about as an upper middle class white woman, we have this expectation that we be like rail thin. And then the joke goes on to say that for such an unfairly treated portion of our population, African American women have the highest self-esteem. And the reason they do, of course, has to do with years of being treated like absolute garbage. So if they wanted any validation, they had to look from within. That's a whole other TED Talk. But then it goes on to explain, like, try telling a black girl she doesn't look good. She'll be like, you know, like, watch me. You know, you're just jealous. And, like, it's an empowering thing. And I've never had a black woman say anything. And then, like, I did an interview, or somebody wrote about my special, someone who wasn't African American, and they called me racist. They, like, said the meanest things about me. And I was like, so this one person didn't get it, so now I'm that. And I was doing nothing but trying to say something positive. So there will always be people that are so righteous and so offended at everything. But this is comedy, folks. We're not teaching, an English lit course here. Like, it's comedy.
I think that's the other side of what I'm talking about, though. I think I'm referring to someone like, a few years ago when Jim Norton had that argument with that female blogger about whether or not someone can do a rape joke.
Right.
And the idea was he was arguing that depending upon the context, you can make any joke that you want to make.
As long as it's funny.
As long as it's funny.
But funny is so subjective.
But I think there's been a
shift.
Not a shift, but a group of, I would say the alt-right are people who sort of feel this way, and it sort of seems to stem from this, that we can use any word we want, we can do anything we want, as long as we say we're joking.
No, that's wrong. Because it's vicious, and it, like I was saying before, like, you've set out to hurt someone's feelings. My intention with that joke was to be like, look at how powerful that is. And so I think it is about intention, and it is about your track record. And everybody has their limit. I always get asked this as a comic, what won't you joke about? And the answer is, it shifts. Do I find rape funny? No. Have I said words like dolphin rape? Yeah. Is rape sort of a ubiquitous term? For sure. But the older you get, the more experience you have, the more you decide what you're okay with saying and what you're not. It's not for me to sit there and be like, that's not funny. I don't have to like it. I don't have to buy your album. I don't have to respect it. Free speech is such a tricky thing. But I think without becoming this like namby-pamby, too PC culture, which is disgusting and it makes America look very weak, without doing that, just the idea of being mindful of someone else's struggle and really asking yourself, like, where is the intention of this joke coming from? I cringe as a Jewish person when I see a comic on stage and they're like, I'm a Jew and I'm fucking cheap and we're dirty Jews. And I'm like, that might be funny for other Jews listening, but there are people in that crowd that maybe don't know Jewish people or don't live in a place where there's Jews, and they're going to walk away thinking that's okay.
Well, that's the old Dave Chappelle thing, right? Or one of the reasons
Which is
that
why
he
you quit
walked
the show.
away. Yeah.
Sure. So you have to be aware, as the representative of your group, whatever you are, that what you're saying on stage, people are going to take away. And it's a tough responsibility, which is why, for me, saying positive things about my brand of feminism and about just being a woman that exists, but also not coming down on men is important, because you're going to walk away from that hopefully feeling empowered and good about yourself.
You can come down on us. We're fine.
But that's the other thing. It's such a low-hanging fruit, but, it's okay.
Low-hanging fruit?
I'm calling part of you a low-hanging fruit. No. So
very low. Sorry. No, I won't do that.
Low, very full. So again, it's all about intention, and it's all about knowing what you're representing. And then you also can't be mad if you get, and I've had friends say this, a lot of my comics of my friends that are comics who are black, we were talking about this, like, he used the N-word. And you get off, one of my writers was telling me this, and he used it repeatedly, and somebody afterwards was like, good job, and then he said the N-word. And it's just like, it's tough, because it's like you taught them, the person's an idiot, but like you made it okay. So when you make jokes about yourself, and we're all in a comedy club, you just have to be mindful of what you're putting out there, because people are so stupid.
Yes.
So you deal with that, and sometimes you just got to shake it off. If I do a joke and you're like, I'm offended, I'm like, well, you're not very bright, because I don't make a habit of really trying to hurt people's feelings.
Well, Iliza, I can't wait for the show. So much fun to talk to you.
I am so excited, you guys.
Tuesday, May 2nd.
Look how pretty. This is our logo.
On Freeform.
Palm trees.
Truth and Iliza. Iliza, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.